Well, tell me about what could we be seeing here next in terms of these threatened duties, Enda?
Well, I think the critical first question is, will the US finally go ahead with these tariffs on $50 billion worth of goods, and then which goods will they choose? So we need to see those details first of all. Then we can assess the kind of economic impact, and of course we'll get a handle on how China responds. Now, importantly, China has said throughout all this they're willing to put some concessions on the table. But if the tariffs go ahead, they will quickly take those concessions back off the table, and they will respond with tariffs of their own. So in some respects, what's happening right now has been expected for some time. These tariffs have been on the agenda for quite a while. But once they go into effect, it's probably likely to have something of a dampening effect on confidence for both markets and investors, I think.
Where do the negotiations stand between the US and China when it comes to trade issues? I mean, we've kind of heard from Beijing that maybe all the work, I guess, progress that's been made could be off if the tariffs are back on.
I think that's right, Heidi. I mean, I spoke to one economist this morning who said, of course, China will respond. If the US does go ahead with these tariffs, China will respond with tariffs in kind. We know the kind of sectors that they've spoken about before: agricultural goods, soybeans being the obvious one, and perhaps on some other heavy industrial equipment as well. But by all accounts, though, the critical question will become, is this the start of something much worse, the start of something much more protracted, or is it just another dance in this merry game that the two are playing? Will these parallel negotiations continue towards some sort of a wider framework agreement? I guess we just won't know until we see the extent and the kind of products that the US do put the tariffs on, and the nature of how China responds to gauge just how fractured the relations are between the two, Heidi.
Yeah, and Christine Lagarde, of course, from the IMF, warning that the global economic outlook is growing darker by the day. This after, I guess, a pretty discouraging G7 summit over last weekend. Is this of real concern for investors?
I think it has to be. The thing is, it's not showing up in the economic data per se. The world economy probably had a softer first quarter than many people expected, but overall, it's still in fairly good order. Trade growth is slowing, but not necessarily because of the trade tariffs. I think the bigger fear is that the longer this continues, the bigger the dampening effect it will have on confidence and sentiment, and will start impacting investment decisions and corporate expansion plans and hiring plans and all the rest of it. So again, it goes back to, if the US goes ahead with these tariffs this weekend and China responds, that will certainly be a bit of an eye-opener, I think, for the world economy and world markets, that this trade dispute is serious and is some way off reaching a final resolution. And that's going to continue to weigh, I think, on growth and sentiment, Heidi, in the months ahead.